Baba makes us pure, and this purity is what makes us makes us happy and peaceful, makes us eligible for happiness and peace. And Baba says everybody wants happiness and peace, but they don't know that the foundation of happiness and peace is purity. Now you see there's a brother, and he used to come to the center for some time, 5-6 years back, and then he moved to a different country. And then yesterday he came after many years, and he said, I've just come on vacation. You remember I used to come and then I left for study, and now I'm working there. So I said, yes, I remember. So then he told me, but I've not come here just like that. I've come here with a question. So I said, okay. So he said, in the West where I live, there is a lot of, youth who are going after yoga and meditation, and I've also done a lot of stuff. And I have come to understand that it's very important to tame your senses. And what I have come to realize is I have great difficulty taming my senses, and especially with regard to sexuality. So he said, because you see, that I have been, I've been raised in an environment where nobody paid attention. So I became, very lustful at a very young age. And now, I live alone and there are opportunities, and then I understand, one part of me understands everything, but then I'm not able to overcome the vice of lust. So I told him, you see, when you are describing yourself to me, you are telling me I am this person who is very lustful. And then you are telling me that you want to overcome lust. So these two things can't happen together. If you define yourself as a person full of lust, how can you get over it? So the first thing you have to understand is you are a spiritual being, a being of purity. And you see, if you go to Google, then they will tell you that human beings are sexual beings. So it's always about, the human being is defined with this quality with this vice of lust. And it is held to be the primary instinct. But Baba comes and tells us that that is what was taught to you after the Copper Age. And I want to also, talk about how these theories came into being. So you see, there is a saying, good news is no news. Yes, so when there was good news, when everything was good in Satyug Treta, there was no news, nothing was written. Because there was no need to write. And then when the world became vicious, we started writing about all the wrong stuff that's happening. And all the research that happened started after Copper Age. And most of the research is based on introspection. And you see, from the Copper Age, Every soul had lust, anger, ego, attachment, greed. So when you introspected, you found that everybody has lust, anger, ego, attachment, greed. So then they said that maybe this is our primary quality. That's why everybody has it. But that is the thing. So when there was no lust, anger, ego, attachment, greed, there was no need for research. And they never had to think about, what is our primary quality, what is this, what is that. And then when we started doing research, all of this happens when there is sorrow. Then you looked inside and you saw that everybody has it. So then they wrote, and do you know that for a very, very, very long time, I think up until the 70s and 80s, there was nothing like positive psychology. Psychology was always about understanding the negative traits, analyzing the negative traits, and it was presumed that basically every person is negative. Their primary traits are negative. So you kept thinking about yourself like that, and then you kept analyzing those negative traits, and then they started getting multiplied. So this is how it happened. It's very recently that there is this thing called positive psychology, where you're looking at the goodness in every person, or the potential goodness at least in every person. So this is why when you think about, when you look at the literature that's available in the world, or all the study that's happening in the world, you get a sense that impurity is your original nature and you are trying to do something against your nature. Yes, and then it becomes impossible, because how can you fight your own very nature? That's not possible. So Baba comes and gives us this, this true knowledge that you are a soul, your essence is purity. And as a soul, in the soul world, you are pure. And when you come to this stage, you spend half the cycle, 2500 years, where your thoughts, words, attitude, vision, action, everything is pure. And just think about it, even today, we cannot think about offering onion, garlic, and some non-vegetarian stuff to deities. You cannot even offer that in bhog. Why? So there are some traces which remind you that even the food, or the conduct, or the thought, or the the relationship in the deity yuga was absolutely pure, devoid of lust, anger, ego, attachment, greed. And I remember there was this one person, and he told me that I switched from non-vegetarian to vegetarian. He was not a BK, he was somebody from some other path, and he told me I switched from non-vegetarian to vegetarian. So I said, so what motivated you? So he said, I researched extensively, and it is found that the human intestine is not meant to digest, it's meant to digest plant-based food. That's why it's so long. And then if you eat the other stuff, then it doesn't get digested, it just rots in that intestine. So I felt that if my body is not made that way, then why should I eat that stuff? And that is what made me overcome this desire for non-vegetarian food. So just think about how much knowledge can affect you, how much knowledge can empower you. And Baba tells us that it's not just the human anatomy. If you study the body also, It's not meant to eat what you're eating these days. Or just think about, you see, when we are watching phone, I remember there was this one sister, she told me she has gone half blind just because she's watching the phone too much. Yes, so she has this vision problem. Or you see, when you're using the earphones too much, your ears are hurting. Or just think about how you're losing all your peace of mind and all your, your Shakti and your super sensuous joy, because you're engaging so much with your senses. So Baba says that if you really look at the human nature, or you look at the nature of the soul, you look at the anatomy of the body, then you know what you need to do exactly. But then when you don't think about it, then you feel that, and there is a lot of abuse. And sometimes when you abuse something, it looks like this is the only use. Yes, so I remember there was a particular drug, and that drug, what is a drug? A drug is a medicine, right? So the meaning of a drug is medicine. But when you start abusing it, it takes a negative connotation. And then most people don't even know that it's a medicine. But you've abused it, so it's become a drug. So similarly, you see, even with the human body, these days it's very difficult to understand that the human body was not meant to, to abuse the organs. So now we have started abusing every organ so much that it looks like this is the only right use of that organ. But Baba says, no, that organ is being abused. It's not the right use of that organ. So this is how Baba reminds us that your original nature is purity, you're designed to be pure, and there is, when you experiment with this, so when you, and I remember when I came to Gyan, my approach was, let me just experiment with whatever Baba tells me, and let me try to see whether I feel or I realize what Baba tells me. I will realize if I experiment with this. So I used to have onion garlic earlier, but when I came to Baba, then I stopped it and experimented with it. And when I experimented, I felt that after certain days, when I opened the fridge and there was onion garlic in the fridge, it was somebody else's fridge, then I felt it, I just couldn't stand that smell. I felt it was a stench, not just a smell. And I felt that how could I be normal with this smell all this while? Because when you are not experimenting with your purity, then you are so used to the impurity that you feel this is normal. But once you start experimenting with it, then you feel that, yes, you don't find that impurity is natural, normal, or pleasurable. And Baba says that you have to now go back to that world of purity again. And for that, what you have to do is again practice purity and finish all sanskars of impurity that are there in the soul. And the first thing Baba tells us is conquer lust. Because you see, there is a saying in Hindi, Kameshu Krodheshu. And the one who is lustful will always be angry. So it is not possible for you to conquer anger if there is lust. And sometimes what happens is, we think we'll start with body consciousness, we'll start with ego, we'll start with greed, we'll start with attachment, we'll start with anger and we'll conquer all of this. And later we'll think about lust. But that's not how it works. Lust is the first vice. If you don't conquer lust, then you can't conquer the rest of it. And I remember there was this one story that I heard, that you see, there was this one sadhu, and he had a desire, and this sadhu, he lived alone in the hills, and then he had a desire that I want to have milk every day. And then he thought, okay, let me take a cow from the village and tie it where I live, and then I can have fresh milk every day. And then when he came to the village to look for a cow, then somebody said, you are a sannyasi, and if you keep looking after the cow all day, then who will do the tapasya that you do? So your whole day will be spent in, procuring the milk and looking after the cow. So what you should do is, you take a woman with you, and she will look after the cow, and you do your tapasya. And then he took the cow and the woman, and then he fell into lust. And then slowly, gradually, he created a whole family, and then he shifted to the village eventually. So you see that one vice is the source of all vices. Where there is lust, there is attachment. Where there is lust, there is, again greed, there is again anger. So if somebody threatens your object of lust, then you will get very angry, and then there is depletion in the soul. So then the soul needs to take the support of ego to feel okay. So all of this is very connected. So Baba says, first thing you have to do is conquer lust. Now, how do you conquer lust? So first thing is churn over the knowledge. So you need Gyan Bal. You need the awareness that I am a pure soul. And you have to churn on it and think about it. You see, the logic that I am giving you is my logic. But you have to think about this truth that Baba tells you, that you are a pure soul, and think about it so much that you derive your own logic about how you understand that yes, purity is my original nature. Yes, maybe what I tell you about my belief of purity may or may not resonate with you. But you have to understand that when Baba says purity is your original nature, then it is so. And then when you think about it, you will have your own logic about why you believe that purity is my original nature. Yes, so that inner work you have to do. Just like I told you that there was this one, I told you about the brother who said just by thinking about the size of the intestine, he could get it. That yes, purity must be my original nature. Similarly, you have to think about your own self. I remember there was this one episode in some program where Shivani Ben says that when somebody dies in the house, you don't cook, right? But how can you cook a dead body and eat it? So when somebody dies in the house, that house is not allowed to cook for some time, and you cannot cook around a dead body. Then how can you cook a dead body and eat it? And there was one Mata, and she said that I found that so powerful that after that I stopped eating non-vegetarian completely. And whenever I saw that, I just thought about, this is a dead body. But I sent that video clip to all my groups, to all my contacts, but none of them felt any influence. and they all continue to eat the non-vegetarian despite it. So what I'm trying to say is that you have to find out what is, when you churn on what Baba says, then you arrive at an understanding of purity which is very, very individual to you. And that logic nobody else can give you. But when you churn on what Baba tells you, like how I believe, or what is my experience, or what is it that makes me believe that I am a soul, will be very different from what makes you believe that you are a soul. But when you churn on the points of knowledge individually that Baba gives you, then you arrive at your own experience of the truth that Baba tells you. So first thing is Gyan Bal. And you see, Gyan Bal is arrived at by individual churning. When you think about something deeply, and I remember there was there was one episode many years back where there was a Mata and she had two sons, and both her sons were very well off, well settled, and this Mata, she was living alone, and it's not like she had bad relations with the son or the sons didn't come to meet her or anything, but it was just so that the sons also chose to live separately, and the Mata also chose to live separately. And then the Mata once had an accident, and then she was lying in bed, and she chose to be with servants, but she did not choose to be with her sons and daughter-in-laws. And I was, I think, 18 at that time. And when I saw that Mata, I really asked her, why don't you, be with your son and daughter-in-law, and why are you suffering so much alone? Then she said, I feel that I will suffer more with my son and daughter-in-law than with the servants. And then she just managed to be on the bed with the servants, but she didn't go there. And that incident, that made me think very hard. And when I used to go to sleep, I used to think there is so much, word about having children and, creating your future and having children who will take care of you in the future. But is it really so that somebody will take care of you in the future, or is it so that you will also feel like staying with them and they taking care of you? And that one incident, that made such a deep impact in my thinking that I felt that all this is optional. You can choose, you may choose to do it, you may not choose to do it. And when I came into Gyan, and when I learnt about purity, celibacy and leading a life of purity, I had no issue with it, because I was over this thought that you have to have children, you have to have somebody who will take care of your future, because that one incident had made me realize, or know deeply that it is not so. And this is why I'm telling you, when you churn on every point of knowledge, then you arrive at a realization which is very, very individual to you. And however much logic the other person will give you, that will not convince you about the fact that you're a soul, or about your original qualities, or about Baba. But when you really take out your time and unplug your attention from the worldly affairs, and you churn deeply on the truths that Baba gives you, then you will arrive at a realization which is very profound and very individual to you. And I think, in this whole world, everybody is motivated by their individual understanding. And that understanding is arrived at when you think deeply about things. So, if you want to go back to your purity, think deeply about the truth that Baba tells you. And that Gyan Bal will give you the power to go back to your purity. Then second thing is Yog Bal. You need yoga power to, to command over your senses, because the soul can be the master of the body, the soul can be the master of the senses only when the soul is powerful. And you need to have yoga with Baba to have that power in you. And only when you sit in silence and be man mana bhav, not allow your mind to think about the body and the senses, and you don't allow anything else to pull your mind, but you take it to Baba and you allow Baba to impact your mind, Baba to condition your mind, then that mind will be free from the control of the senses. And that is yoga power. So you need the power of realization, you need the power of yoga, and you also need some dharana for purity. So you need to experiment. You need to, first it starts with experimentation. Every dharana starts with experimentation. So you need to experiment with celibacy. You need to experiment with purity of food. You need to experiment with a mind free from the thoughts of criticism and negativity. You need to experiment with a pure drishti. So when you start this dharana that from today until 1 month, I am going to experiment with this purity of thought, purity of organs, purity of food, or purity of attitude. Whenever I think of anybody, I have to first think they are a soul, and then I have to start thinking about the other stuff. So when you experiment with these ideas of purity, then that experimentation, that dharana, that gives you the power to practice purity, because then you realize that there is so much power in purity. When you practice it, then you know that it makes you feel different, it makes you, vibrate differently, it makes your buddhi work differently, and it is a gift. So that is one thing. So these are the 3 things that I realize are very important for purity. And then Baba today tells us that even if you don't have the opportunity to relate the Gyan to anybody in words, then you can always do seva with your dharana. Yes, and I've shared this earlier also, but I will repeat this. There was one brother and he was a very renowned scientist, and I took him to Madhuban, and at that time I had some other seva in Madhuban, so I couldn't attend to that brother. And then there was another Kanya, and she was 5 years into Gyan, and she must have been 22 or 23 years of age. And I asked that Kanya to guide that brother and take him to lunch and dinner with herself, so that he has company and he can also talk about Gyan and all. So that brother, he kept attending classes and stuff, and then he would have lunch and dinner and breakfast with this Kanya. And this Kanya, she used to eat food in very good, loveful remembrance of Baba. And when she used to eat the food, he would just see that there was so much contentment, and bliss on her face. And then after 4 days, when the conference was over, I talked to that brother and I asked him, what did you like about the conference? Did you learn something about spirituality which stayed with you? Or did you like something in the stay or with the people you met? So he said, I don't remember most of the classes and I don't remember much. Maybe I was not focusing or something. But I just know one thing. I want to eat food like she eats. And I just want to have that face, that blissful, contented face when I eat food. And I have been trying to copy that. But I have not been able to. And could you teach me how to arrive at that? I want to learn that. And I just thought, 4 days he stayed, he saw so many things, heard so many things. But what really influenced him was the dharana that this little girl had. And Baba says that you can always impact somebody with your dharana. And I remember, there was this one brother, and he used to come to the class, and he came to the class 6 months every day. And he did not understand anything. When I used to ask him questions, he would go blank. And then after 6 months, I made him sit and I asked him, so you don't understand anything, right? So he said, no. So I said, then what motivates you to come every day? So he said, you know what? I have been in army, I've been in the defense all my life. And I know that being consistent is very difficult. Being on time is very difficult. And he said, I have seen you conduct the class every day on time. And that is something that I really look up to. And this is why I come every day. And I think, you are a civilian. And he said, because, that's the language they use. So they said, you are a civilian. And having so much discipline in a civilian is something very rare. And he said, then I understood that you people get up at 3:30 in the morning, and then you people, you have a fixed lifestyle, you eat a certain kind of food, you wear the same clothes every day. So I, as an army person, I admire that very much. And whether I understand something or not, I definitely know there is a lot to understand here. Maybe I'm not getting it right now, but I will get it. And slowly, gradually, that brother, he understood Gyan. So what I'm telling you is, sometimes, you think that only Gyan can help somebody, but that is very overrated. Your dharana can also influence many people and many souls, and if you really see in the long run, it is only dharana that influences. Because even if somebody is impressed by Gyan, they come, but when they see you, they might not be, so motivated, or they might not continue to be motivated like they were if there is no dharana in you. So Baba says the real instrument of seva is your power of dharana. Okay, Om Shanti.